Welcome everyone to episode 11 of When Tomorrow Comes. It's a different week, different weather. I've got my trousers back on. I'm cold. Joined as usual by Ashley and Dan. Hello guys.
Hi Ian.
Hello Ian.
Nice to see Ashley in her coffin chair. It's my favourite. And we've got Joe ready with us as well. Welcome Joe. First time on the vlog.
Yeah. Hi Ian.
Nice to see you. Joe, you're here because you've written an article that's gone out this week on World Environment Day. I showed my ignorance by when I saw the article in draft thinking that WED stood for Wednesday. So I get my apologies in early. Joe, do you want to just give us a quick overview of the article and obviously what World Environment Day is all about?
Yeah, sure. So World Environment Day has been around since the 70s. And it's about sort of promoting environmental awareness and encouraging sort of thought and collective action on a range of environmental issues. Each year has a different theme, and the theme this year is about making time for nature and sort of appreciating the natural world around us in relation to sort of biodiversity. And our article sort of looked at the impact of that and the importance of it in the current situation that we've sort of found ourselves in. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I've really started to appreciate my walks outside, having been confined indoors for such a long period of time, and the importance of that sort of, and how that can be taken forward once we eventually, hopefully, get out of the current situation that we found ourselves in.
I must admit, I've gained a family of pigeons in my garden, which I'm not sure is necessarily a good thing, but you certainly can't help but notice birdsong a lot more, and you do definitely feel much more aware of natural surroundings. Dan, it's been around since the 70s. Why don't we know more about this?
Well, we do know about it. It is known in certain circles. I mean, there's a lot of environmental kind of movements and separate days. There's Buy Nothing Day, there's Earth Hour, there's all sorts of different environmental movements and celebrations that go on. So it is fairly well known, and I do like the way they sort of theme it year on year, because it allows people to approach it from a different angle.
Ashley, how do we ensure that this means something, that it's not just white noise, that people don't read Joe's article and then go back to what they were doing before?
I think it should be used as an opportunity for people to kind of check in with themselves about what they do to contribute to the environment and if there's anything they can change. And I think that we do all sometimes need a little bit of a reminder. So I think that it is a really good idea to have a kind of day to celebrate this and to capture some of the key ideas and key themes around it. And those all are to kind of realise the policy benefits that being in and around nature can have to us, and hopefully one of the positives from coronavirus can be that people have began to make more of the nature that's around them and to appreciate it a little bit more as well.
So Joe, we all work in a sort of a planning context. So how do we, what's the carrot and stick approach to this? How do you expect people to sort of take the benefits of this and put it into more of a policy context?
Well, we were starting to make some actually quite good strides on that front, with biodiversity net gain in particular being sort of coming forward as part of the Environment Bill, and that was going to be a mandatory sort of 10% net gain across all new development sites. The crux of the issue is there's the balance between sort of the social, the economic and the environmental, and unfortunately the environmental tends to be the one that gets pushed further down the agenda in comparison to the other two. But there are many policies where we're starting to see through like the new London plan examples of policies where actually green infrastructure and SUDs and all these other environmental tools and measures that we have already are actually becoming much more of a focus for sort of planning authorities and decision makers, and hopefully then we'll start to carry a bit more weight in terms of the overall planning application process.
Yeah, I guess Dan, just thinking of what Joe said there, that none of us would dispute that coming out of COVID that getting the country building again, so if you like the economic imperative of sustainable development is going to be crucial. But there's no reason why within that you can't still make provision for net environmental gains, is there? Or diversity?
No, absolutely not. And post-COVID, the kind of environmental gains are increasingly important. I mean, in terms of sort of improving people's well-being and health and everything like that. you've got distinct links there. And as we come out of lockdown and people start making lifestyle choices based on their experiences of lockdown, I think we're going to start seeing, developments incorporate more and more green space to improve people's access to nature, private gardens, that sort of stuff. That actually become part of a key selling point as people move to a sort of greener lifestyle.
So, Ashley, does that in a sense point towards more suburban development than just perhaps the focus that there's been on high density urban developments of the past decade?
I don't necessarily think so. I think that people are always going to want a variety of places to live. Everyone has different needs, desires. I certainly could not take myself back to the suburban living where I was brought up in sort of rural Scotland. That is not something that I could imagine sort of living in. And I imagine lots of people will feel that way as well. But I think Dan touched on it briefly there, which is that potentially what we need to think about is more about how we incorporate really good positive design into high density urban environments, and how we use the kind of communal or the private amenity space and the green spaces as a positive selling point. The balance between the economics and the kind of environmental. And I think one thing has been that often developers do see providing this kind of private space is something that's a cost that doesn't have much benefit to them. But I think now there is a significant benefit to it because people may want that in the future and they may have more demand for it. So it's something that they'll have to think about. But I certainly think it's all just going to come down to kind of really strong, high quality design and making sure that our urban areas are doing well.
Joe, I mean, it's your article, and you sit in our environmental impact team. Are there particular requests or policy initiatives that you'd like to see introduced?
That's a really good question, actually. I think it's not about new ones, it's about enhancing the ones we've got currently. And as we've sort of touched upon already, it's about this balance between the built environment and the natural environment, and how the two can coexist in a more sort of environmentally sustainable way. And it's not just the environment in terms of, biodiversity, ecology, that sort of thing that people typically associate with the environment as well. It's about, as Dan touched upon, the wider benefits, sort of the social side, the health impacts that kind of go along with the better balance between sort of your typical brick and mortar sort of type development, and then one that's perhaps got a bit more landscaping, a bit more green space, making better use. And as Ashley said, it's about smart design, and it's just making sure that all of that is sort of amalgamated together and isn't in conflict, I guess. So I don't think there's anything new, but I think it's better use of what we've currently got.
Yeah, it's a good point, actually, because I guess there is that sort of tendency to want to think of new things as opposed to perhaps making the most, getting the best out of what we've already got. I wonder, Dan, whether, we've probably all been in situations where when the consultant team has highlighted various targets and objectives that are required in order to meet policy, that the eyes have rolled from people, and there's perhaps been the starting point has perhaps been to think about how you can minimise rather than necessarily optimise those things. And it'll be interesting to see whether post-COVID, whether the development industry is more receptive to building these things in rather than necessarily seeing them as a constraint on what they're trying to do.
Yeah, that's right. Key to it is trying to get one thing to do many roles. So a bit of green space not only gives you biodiversity, it gives you amenity, it gives you surface water runoff storage, it gives you flood attenuation, and that's from a simple bit of green space. So the clever bit of the design optimization that everyone's referring to is trying to use one thing for many roles, and that's good architecture, that's good urban design.
That's great. Joe, we're pretty much up on our time. Is there? I feel I owe it to you to perhaps have the closing comment on this.
Yeah, thanks, Ian. I guess the main message that the article is trying to portray is just getting everyone engaged and actually thinking about, what does nature mean to you? Is it just the tree in your back garden, or is it, the sound of birds now that there are fewer cars on the road? Or or is it something else that we haven't just touched on in this article or in this blog? So I guess what I'm trying to say is, ultimately, we all know that we need to take some environmental action, and we need to take it now, because we're very dependent on this planet. There is no planet B. So we need to make time for nature. If nature wants to look up, we need to make more time for nature in our everyday lives, because if we look after nature, then it will look after us.
Very good point. That's an excellent place to leave it on. Guys, thanks for your contributions as always. Joe, nice to have you. Come and see us again soon.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.
Cheers.